Before heading to the video, if you haven't subscribed the channel, do subscribe it and don't forget to click the bell icon for the latest update notification. If you like the video, do like, comment and share. Stay tuned with learnbay.co. Happy learning!
Just one topic that this is again a small topic. We don't have to invest too much time here, but it's actually pretty important. We cannot ignore this because this actually leads to formation of a lot of concepts and it will help you visualize regression problems very easily. Oh, okay. In simple English, forget the mathematical definition. What is correlation, or how do you understand the word correlation? If someone says, "Sir, these two things are correlated," how do you understand it? Correlated. Just you can break down these two words in a simple English, and you can maybe think as
They both depend on each other.
Uh, if I give an example, something like the Sensex and Reliance stock are correlated because if Reliance goes up, Sensex goes up because it is a big.
okay, yeah, you can say that. Yeah, they are correlated. Anything else? Any other example you can take? We can also take like simple examples. We don't have to directly go with a Sensex example.
Height and weight.
Height and weight, good example. Very good example. Yeah.
Summer and electricity bill. Air conditioners go up. In India, not in US. US may winter may it will go up because of heating.
Yeah, there's a confounding variable that where you live actually.
Yeah.
People are getting very heavy bills right now in Maharashtra as well right now. So that's okay, fine. I get the sense what you were trying to say. In India, actually, yes, because India is a hot, warmer country. If you have an AC installed, okay, then even if you have fans, they will be almost 24/7 running. So yeah, in summers the bill can come up, and it depends like where. Yeah, that is definitely true for Bangalore, okay, because in winters we will just switch off the fans, okay, and we will not be turning on heaters or such. And in summers we will have to run fans 24/7. So yeah, it does happens in our bill in summer is definitely higher. Okay, okay, fine. That's actually a good example. Height and weight is actually a pretty good example. That as the height increases, ideally the weight also increases.
See, number of industrialization is improved. The production of CO2 will be higher.
Sorry, I did not get the last line. Production of what?
CO2.
CO2, yes, of course. If you industrialize any area more, okay, the amount of PM particles will increase. CO2, carbon monoxide, okay. So
yeah, that the problem statement what I have given is the World Economic Forum problem actually.
Right. So of course these are gonna happen, and this is basically captured through correlation. Now, what is correlation mathematically? Basically, we are trying now. Remember, we are trying to deal in quantitative. What is quantitative? First of all, I have given this in last class. What is quantitative?
It can be
Measurable. Yeah, it could be numeric value. It could be discrete. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or it could be a floating point. Okay. But usually we don't deal in categorical, which are totally string based. Okay. We are trying not to, we are ignoring those right now. So we are trying to find relationship between two quantitative variables without being able to infer causal relationships. Actually, earlier I didn't used to say that, but later one person I think made a very grave mistake one day, like while. So basically, I had to add this line specifically that you cannot actually infer causal relationship between them. So correlation is a statistical technique used to determine the degree to which two variables are related. So let's say we are dealing in X and Y, okay? We are trying to understand with which amount of degree they are related or they are linearly related if we will take Pearson product moment correlation coefficient, okay? So there's an interesting problem that actually what happens is, and a study of causation is still very much ongoing. So there is a problem that a lot of people will just take some correlations and blow it out of proportion and almost play it like, how do I say, causation. And again, our news media has also done this so much time that I've got like pretty frustrated by just hearing those points after a while. that you cannot just take two variables or some variables and just correlate them and also show they are already causing one another. No, that is very absurd actually. You need to understand the confounding variables, control variables as well. So what are confounding variables? Anyone knows? That is the tricky part actually. A lot of people don't understand the confounding variable. Okay, I will give you a good example with confounding variables. Okay, and okay, let's say, can I say that as the temperature increases, the sale of sunglasses goes up?
Yes, because it is related to summer, and in summertime we buy. It's directly not related. Is it you are referring?
So you can maybe say that as the temperature is going up, let's say sale of sunglasses goes up. Make sense? But if I were to plot the graph and I say that for some reasons, actually it's not true. Even in winters, it can happen. Why?
Selling of sunglasses related to sunshine, like how bright the sun is. That can happen in winter also. It's
Winter,
not.
but why it is increasing?
Due to offers.
Sorry?
Maybe due to offers.
No. Okay, that is a good one. Any normal reason, first of all, we can go for the offers and stuff, but why it is increasing really? Okay, so
people going to outside is more to
outside is
expose.
more in winters. Okay,
But,
sorry.
some kind of
No. Okay, actually, I think we have some people from USA, right? Here. So, hey guys, what happens? Okay, so how many people live in this belt of like Texas to California? Does anyone lives there?
Yes, I live in Texas.
Sorry. Hello, or have you gone in the winters over there?
Yeah, I live in Texas. This is Sagar.
Hey Sagar. So, which area of Texas, man?
Houston.
Oh, then you are not getting any snow.
No, yeah.
Okay, so I was in New Mexico. Okay,
Oh.
I was in Albuquerque, and I also used to go to Denver. Okay, one of my friends was there. So in these areas, what happens is these are dry states. You have to understand. Fundamentally, they most of the areas are just basically deserts, but it snows in the especially in from months from December to March or sometime till April. It snows over there. The problem is these are dry areas, so it will not become cloudy like India. Okay, so in India, like North India, when the winter season is there is also some lot of cloud. There is a lot of mist in the morning, so till 11 you cannot even see the sun. Those are not the scenarios over there. It will snow, but there will be no mist because it is practically a dry environment. So what happens is, and also I went to ski over there, but even in normal roads, forget skiing part. Okay, even if it snows from morning, let's say 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. or 9 a.m. Okay, what happens is there is so much snow in the road, and even if you're driving in that path, what happens is sunlight hits the snow and it reflects directly on your eyes.
Yeah, snow glare.
Yeah, so there is so much snow glare even in the normal city roads. So till the snow doesn't melts down. Now in Pennsylvania, Boston, there's a whole different scenario. It becomes like for 4 months people do not see a sun. So there is a different scenario. But in a lot of parts of world where it is a dry environment, if the snow falls, you will not be able to walk or drive on the road because the snow glare will come. So the problem is, even we think that this is correlated, there is a confounding variable actually. And what is that variable? Sunlight. And snow basically just reflects that sunlight directly to our eyes, and it makes driving very hard. Now I understand, and people in India might not have realized this, but I have went to like North India in May, and there was sufficient snow, and the driver couldn't drive without his sunglasses on. But yes, most of India doesn't see that, so we do not think about this. But it is not just the temperature. Yes, there is a confounding variable that what happens is when the temperature is up, usually it is summer and there are less amount of clouds, so it is very sunny. So it is the light actually which is the variable that is causing it. But what happens in lot of times, even in our real life, even propagated by news and media, they will take two variables, plot a curve in front of you, and they will show you them as not just as correlated, they will show them that one is cause of another. And this is where as a person who understands stats, you have to be extremely careful, because this is how lies are sold to you in life. Okay, they will just show you this part, and they will show some that just because the temperature increasing, the sunglasses sale is going up, but they forget about confounding variable. Especially with this corona basically epidemic going on, there is so much anything, people are just publishing anything. They will just take any kind of variable and they will just publish anything. Okay, so yeah, people are trying to spread a lot of misinformation, maybe due to some kind of a monetary gain that they might get after a while or something like that. So be careful. Lot of people try to show correlation graphs, and they will try to make somehow causality issue. Now, what is causal here? What is causing that issue? Okay, could you explain what is the causing the rise of or what is causing the increase of buying sunglasses?
Sunlight, maybe.
The sunlight. How
Sunlight.
sunlight is gonna hit your eyes. And yes, it is definitely positively correlated with temperature, but understand in a lot of areas in world, which are dry areas, but still get snow, actually you will be blinded by the snow glare and you will not even be able to drive on the roads. So the confounding variable is something else actually, is sunlight actually. Okay. But this is why we are making, I am especially making this claim that I am teaching you correlation. I'm not teaching you causality problems right now. And you have to understand there are there might not be just one confounding variable, there might be multiple confounding variables. So confounding variables are those variables which can alter the output or input, means which can affect the x and y. So if x and y are there, basically they might be dependent on a confounding variable called z. This is called a confounding variable. Okay, and z can change x and y or both at the same time, or maybe just affects one. But if you do not know about z, you might be in a lot of trouble. Okay. So please try to understand, we are just talking correlation. We are not talking causality issues, because there's a very funny, basically meme I read, like it is like every time I go from Bangalore to Delhi, let's say in that same time period, 10 people in India on an average die. So if you were to provide this data to machine learning, it might even conclude that you're traveling from Bangalore to Delhi is causing 10 people to die. So don't make that mistake. That's the only point.
Sir, example could be like, let's say that as evening comes, traffic increases. So is the evening causing the traffic, or is the confounding variable is that the
No, I'll give
market
you a
shut
better one.
down?
Forget. If you're in USA, it is even a better one. I heard this in USA itself, actually, you know. So basically, the idea is if when more number of ice creams start to sell, shark attacks increase.
Yeah, so people go to beach more, have more ice cream, shower
Yeah.
time, but then
So
they are not
ice
late.
cream is sold when more in summers, and whole of the USA and Europe starts to have their summer vacations and stuff. And basically, it is pleasant to go in a beach, because apart from Florida, rest of the USA, even it has long coastline, you cannot actually go to beach. It is so cold. Because I remember I went in California one time in January. Okay, I went to that Pebble Beach. You could not step into water. It was so freezing. In California, it was the case near San Francisco. So apart from maybe San Diego and Florida, you cannot actually touch the water in most of the cases when it is cold. It is really cold actually. Okay, so for northern parts and same for most of the Europe as well. These guys can mostly go to beach in the summers. Okay, now if you go to summers, sharks will come close. You will start to go in deep in the water, and they will attack. But at the same time, increase of the ice cream is also going up. So yes, you can come up with two variables: increase in number of sales of ice cream and shark attacks, and you will see there is a positive correlation. So please try not to make a causation issue over there, because that is very laughing. But yeah, a lot of people do that, like with so many unrelated things, and like how people just jump into conclusions so fast. So yeah, just be careful that we are trying to do a study of correlation and try to understand there is a negative, that try not to always make a causation immediately. Always think there could be confounding variables hidden, and sometimes it is hard to find the confounding variable. It's not very easily apparent. Okay. All right. So maybe, okay, actually, sorry. First, let me explain what it is, right? Again, examples are there already. Again, height and weight are related, correlated, we can say. Taller people tends to be heavier than shorter people. Now, we are not saying the relationship is perfect. People of same height vary in weight, and I can easily think that some people I know who are short, who are heavier, and the taller ones are thinner, so they are pretty, they weigh less. Okay, so the graph looks like this. Usually the graph, and this is the height in meter, I guess, and the weight is in kg. Now relationship is definitely not perfect, okay? But anyone can see the graph and say this is definitely positively correlated. As the height goes up, the weight ideally goes up as well. Is it clear, or any issues here?
No, no issue.
Okay. You can also see some other correlations. As the temperature usually goes up, the number of heater cells will come down. And if the temperature is less, the number of heater cells will increase. Similarly, although it's not a very perfect one, but yeah, there is some positive correlation that if you show more advertisements, usually the purchase intention definitely increases. This is why Flipkart, Amazon, Myntra will, if you install their apps and if you do not stop their notification, they will bombard you. Right now, I'm getting like 5 notifications for Flipkart, 2, 3 from Amazon right now, and from Myntra as well, because everyone is just pushing their sale on us, right? So yes, it does happen that if you keep seeing these advertisements, these very strong, how do I say, offers, you might end up buying a few things as well. If you have, let's say, credit card, especially with credit card, it happens a lot. Because you always have this intention of paying late, right? In USA, you have like 0% APR for new cards for 12 months, 15 months. So that is like amazing. Like you just pay the basic, like some $10, $15. Means if you purchase something of $200, you can pay that $200 in less than 12 months. Then anyone can buy it, right? That's the whole problem. You just have to make the minimal payment, like that could be $10, $15. That's all you have to pay till 12 months for on that new card. Whatever you purchase, you can just keep paying as long as you want. So that intention is there, that if I see more advertisement, there is a higher chance we will buy that.
And so probably that's the reason they give more offer on credit cards and all than debit cards.
Yeah, we are seeing this, right? I think on Citibank or ICICI. The first message I got on Flipkart app today, that on Citi and this ICICI Bank, you will get 10%. I was like, thank God I don't have that. Otherwise, I would have logged on through that app and I might try to buy something. Yeah, it happens. Even in India, they are trying to make sure that more and more people are purchasing through credit cards and stuff. Even people have loyalty cards, okay, or miles card, although miles card are not much of use right now. But yeah, that's the whole idea, that there is a positive correlation. Maybe it is weak. A lot of people, I like to consider myself right now, at least in this age, that I'm not falling for all of this. But yeah, if I had a credit card back when I was 19 or 20 years of old, dude, I would have just bought anything that I could have. But maybe now with this age, I'm not thinking like much of like, yeah, boy, why to buy all this stuff? There is no much use. But I can very easily see if we can give my credit card to one of my younger cousins who is like 17, 18 years. He will buy anything that he could. So yeah, there is a positive correlation that if you show more number of advertisements, the purchase intention does seem to go up. Okay, so what we are going to talk about is called Pearson's correlation coefficient, or the complete name is Pearson product moment correlation coefficient. Okay, it is denoted by usually two variables. Usually you have X and Y. And for population, for the whole population, you will denote it by this symbol rho, or for the sample, you will denote with a small r. Okay. So again, remember, it can only measure the strength of linear association. This is very important. It only measures the strength of linear association, not quadratic, not cubic or anything, just linear relationship between X and Y. These are just two variables, okay? It could be anything. And is denoted by R, but R is only for the sample. If you were to use the whole thing, population, then you should usually go with the rho symbol. Okay. And basically tries to fit a line, man. I will show you, not a problem. I will just show you that basically what you can think them as, that the idea is to fit a line here. So whenever you see these kind of graphs, can you fit a line, or can you try to identify them on terms of a line, and based on that slope of that line, basically Pearson correlation magnitude and the angle, the sign would be calculated. Okay. So again, the moment I said line, you have to understand we are talking about linear relationships only. The Pearson correlation coefficient R can basically take values from -1 to +1. Why? Can anyone think about this?
Yeah, inversely proportional and directly proportional.
That's one thing, but why only from -1 to +1? That's the question.
Because most probably it's a ratio. You're comparing
It's
things.
a ratio basically. Yeah, basically you can think like you are right here. So you can think R or rho as anything, right? So that ratio can, let's say in our case, can go from +1 to -1 or -1 to +1. Okay. Now there are few assumptions that you need to know. Okay. First of all, you cannot always apply this. So the variables must have an interval or a ratio measurement. Okay. So basically we are talking numerical. Okay. Make sure about that. Either they are direct integers or ratio measurements, basically floating points. Okay. Yes, there is an assumption that the data should be normally distributed, and this is why I was telling Gaussian will keep coming back again. There's a linear relationship between two variables. Okay, so x and y, we are assuming there's a linear relationship, and you have to remove the outliers. Okay, kept to a minimum or removed completely, and there is a homodiscosity of data. Now this is slightly tricky term, but I will explain you. Homodiscosity is described to a situation in which error term or the noise is basically same across all the values of independent variables. So the idea is very simple. In homodiscosity, what do we understand? That even if you have an error, okay, so it is well within some kind of a small range that we have, and it is same. So if you have multiple outcome, or maybe let me explain it like this. So if you have multiple independent variables, so you have x1, x2 and x3. Okay. So the idea is the error range, let's say even if there is some error, and there would be some error of course, should be roughly approximately in the same curve, or how do I say, in the same magnitude. Okay, even if you get errors along various axes. So let's say your equation is composed like this: θ1 into x1 plus θ2 to x2 plus θ3 into x3. Okay. So the homodiscosity means error percentage, whatever you calculate due to sampling, maybe due to noise or something, it should be roughly same across all of the variables. It should not be like x3 is seeing like 50% of error, and this is saying some, let's say 2% error, maybe this is 1%. So this is called heterodiscosity. Discosity. Okay, sorry. So this kind of scenarios are called heterodiscosity, that error could be really high for some variable and it could be really low for other variables. We don't want those kind of scenarios, because then it is not going to work, because then the linear relationship has been skewed actually a lot. So we don't want that at any point. So we are mostly looking into homodiscosity scenario, that where we want the error values or random disturbances, it should be in the same across all the independent values. It should not be too much fluctuating. So these are the 5 assumptions that we have made to even calculate Pearson correlation. Otherwise, it is not going to work in your favor. So again, for a population parameter, it is represented by rho, or you can think like this, sorry. And R for the simple statistics. So for R is for the sample. Basically, if you are taking for sample, you should use R. If you are taking for the whole population, you should usually refer with rho. Okay. And it measures both the strength and the direction between the linear relation. Yeah, you have a question, Ram? Hello. You raised your hand. Do you have a question? Okay. Okay, let me show you how it works. Okay. So first of all, let me share this. Okay, so you guys can also run this code. So again, guys, we are just going to operate with two variables. So X is this random variable that I'm creating, or array, let's say I'm creating here. Okay, so we calculated, or we are creating 100 random integers between 0 and 50. Okay. And so our equation for Y is X plus some noise. So if this is the equation, what do you think the correlation should look like? Positive or negative? So positive correlations means, okay, first let me explain what positive means. If this is X and this is Y, if there is a positive correlation, if X goes up, then Y also needs to go up. What it means is, if the point is originally here for some X value, let's say 2,2, and if the values increase, let's say it becomes 3, I'm not saying it should be perfect 3 unless it's 1. There's no guarantee, but let's say it's 3.2. So both should go up. And similarly, when X goes down, the Y should also go down. That is called a positive correlation. What is a negative correlation?
Inverse.
Yeah, negative correlation is the idea of that heater sail. Okay. When the temperature goes up, okay. So the heater sails when if the temperature is high and heater sails, so the number of sails basically. So it is somewhere here. What it means? Because the number of sails is very low, but the temperature is very high. Okay. But if the temperature goes down, then the number of sails increase. So if this kind of slope, if you get a kind of obtuse slope, which will give you a negative value, you will understand there is a negative correlation. Okay. So the values of points might look like this. Understood, guys?
Yeah.
Okay, now I will tell you the equation as well to manually calculate it. But first I want to just show you a simple way. So in NumPy, there is a function called correlation coefficient, CORCOEF, and you just have to pass X and Y. Okay. So it returns the Pearson product moment correlation coefficient. So just run this. Now, because it is random point, it might change a bit. Okay. All right. Okay, actually I've fixed the seed here, right? So maybe you can just change the seed here just to see some different values. Okay, so how to read this? First of all, let me explain. So basically it is again drawn like kind of like, okay, so this is X, okay, and Y, and similarly X and Y. Okay, this is how the table is drawn. So X to X is, what would be the correlation?
1.
Always 1. X to X, Y to Y is always 1. So main diagonal is just gonna be 1. You don't even have to think. Now there's a equation that I will show you a bit later. But let's say with this example, it comes as 0.85, and it will be same, guys. X to Y or Y to X, it's the same. There's no change. Okay, you do it anyways, it will not change a single bit. Okay, and this will be, you can also do through pandas as well. You always don't have to convert to NumPy. It can be done very easily in pandas. And okay, so first let's plot this idea, right? First let's see. So we will use the ggplot style and we will just do a scatter plot. Okay, so just to show you what positive correlation look like. See, maybe I can come up with a line here if you think about it. I'm not sure where exactly, but maybe this is a good line representation. Can you see? Now again, you can see because of the randomness, it is not a perfect correlation, but you can very easily see that yes, it is going in positive direction without a doubt. Is it clear? What is the positive correlation? So we can mention this one as positive correlation. Agree? So when X increases, Y also increases. Make sense?
Yeah.
Not always, but mostly that is what is going to happen here. Okay, cool. Okay, let's see example of negative correlation. Same idea, but this time we will take, let's say 100 minus x. So this minus thing is going to change everything here. Okay, so let's just take some negative correlation here, and you get 0.9458. Okay, same idea, but just this time we are getting a negative correlation. So let's just do a scatter plot. Can you see the negative correlation? When x is increasing, let's say it becomes 40 or 50, because the equation is like this, right, guys? So if y is nothing but 100 minus x. So when x will become a bigger number, what will happen to y? Means you can start anywhere, but there is some random noise just to have a good distribution, but it's okay. If x is 0, what will be the y value?
100.
100, right? And when x is a bigger number, let's say 50, what will happen?
50.
50. And if when x is 100, then y value is
0.
0. So you can see that if x is increasing, y is decreasing. Okay. And if you were to decrease the value of x altogether, x is minus 20, then
120.
Yeah, it is or even increasing a bit more. So this kind of correlation is called a negative correlation. Make sense, guys?
Yeah.
Cool. Now, what if both of them were like same, or yeah, something like same, or both of them were random? Then forget any kind of relationship, linear relationship. Both of them are random now. Then the correlation coefficient should come close to 0. Either in negative or positive direction, it doesn't matter. It will be close to 0 value. And if I were to plot it, it will look something like this. No correlation.
So we can kind of use the correlation to see how much our random function is doing the randomness.
Yeah, so you can see that the randomness is pretty high because the correlation value is 0.029. So you can think at 0.03, which is very less value, to be very honest. You need to see, okay, so to see the strength of the correlation, you need to get the magnitude. So whatever you value, you get 1.0, let's say. So we are only concerned about the magnitude to understand the strength of correlation. Anything closer to 0 means randomness. Anything closer to 1 means good correlation. Positive or negative, that's dependent by the sign. But usually we want to see a higher correlation, but that's not always the case. In some machine learning algorithms, you will understand the features should be very related to each other. They should not be highly correlated with each other because that can bring down the performance. But ideally, a lot of times when we are doing a statistical analysis, we do love to see higher correlation. Okay. Same thing can be done through pandas. If the function is just CORR, again, this is just Pearson correlation. Okay, so this is a pandas data frame, guys. Can you explain me what is happening here?
You are creating a data frame, but that is a single column data frame with the row heading guys.
Are you sure?
Yeah, because this is a dict, am I right? In a dict, you have A. So A will be the column heading, and all these things will be the rows. So there will be 100 rows with random values between 0 and 50.
So basically, okay, there are 4 columns first of all. Look in the second, third, fourth line as well.
No, I'm just talking about a DF. I'm reading line by line. So DF is creating.
No, but hold on. Even if you do this, what happens? I hope you understand this.
No, now you are adding another column. No, I got that. I got that. I was going line.
The first line, right? Okay.
The DF is one line with A. Then second, you are adding B, another column to the data frame with first column, then adding random number. Then you are adding another column C, then which is 100 minus the first column, which is A, and then adding a random variable, and then the fourth column D, which is the random between. Yeah, so there are 4 columns, but I was going row by.
You are right. Whatever the 3 exercises we did already, just to show them. Okay.
Yeah.
So first, let's see the correlation coefficient. So again, same. See on the main diagonal, everything is 1. Make sense?
Yeah.
Because again, A to A, B to B, and C to C, and D to D will be 1. Now, but you see B to A, and then any one column you see that is 1 star. A to B is 0.83, A to C is negatively correlated, so 0.94, and A to D is 0.1, which is again a smaller value closer to 0. That means it is a randomness. Again, you can see B to A, we already know, B to B is understood. B to C is again negatively correlated, because which is positively correlated with A will be negatively correlated with C. And again, if it is positively correlated with A, and because it is random and A is also random, you can think that this will be definitely be almost again no correlation or 0 correlation with any of these. So do you understand and interpret the values what they are trying to show you here?
Yeah, I have a question. In the second and third line where we are adding B and C column, we are actually using in the second and third line we are actually using np.random.normal. So why actually we are taking normal to get the
quite some noisy points. Otherwise, what will happen? Let me show you. What usually happens if I do not take any randomness, then all the points will just lie on a single line, right? See the one thing that will happen.
No, I'm saying that if we just use random function, that random dot random int, then
okay. Oh, okay. So remember, there's a one assumption basically. Okay, it's not a very strong assumption, but you can think it like. So because the data needs to be normally distributed, you guys, first of all, you can definitely try with other ones, because I want to keep some kind of homodiscosity. Okay, so I do not want to blow it out of proportion. Okay, so even if I'm introducing an error, I want to put it around a normal distribution, because basically I'm trying to keep the jump is in the same direction. Again, you can try with different normal functions, and even in the fundamental sense, the pure normal function, random function that you use is again normal anyways. So that doesn't make much of a difference here. Okay, so you can use any kind of random function here. That is not much of a problem here. Okay, I thought like you were asking why I am adding a random function at all here.
no. I think if I use your random int instead of normal, then I think the value magnitudes will decrease, right?
Sorry, what it will decrease?
The magnitudes of correlation coefficient, like in the case of
you can give it a try and see what happens.
Sorry, what did you say?
No, I'm just saying you can give it a try. Of course, you should change the code and give it a try on your own as well.
Yeah, sure. I'll see it.
Yeah, guys. So please feel free to change your code on your own time and see what kind of results you are gonna get. Okay, no problem with that. Okay, so are the results understood?
Yeah.
Yes.
So pandas also have a slide plotting functionality available, where I can generate a scatter matrix. What is a scatter matrix? It will just take 2 variables or 2 columns at a time, and it will try to plot something. Okay, so just a scatter plot, so that I don't have to plot everything on my own. So this is what you will get. What do you see, guys, here? Again, it is same: A to A, A to B, A to C, A to D. So A to A will generate its own histogram, its own representation of data. Okay, but so same, B to B's own representation of data, C to C is its own representation, D to D is its own representation of data. Means whatever the frequency it is getting for different integers. Again, it's just integers, right? So some integers might repeat a lot or something like that. What is the rest of them? What is A to B? So if you look carefully, we can see there is a positive correlation, right? A to B is 0.83. So you can understand this is nothing but there is a positive correlation here. So maybe I can just draw a line here. Okay. And similarly, you can see there is a negative correlation. So maybe I can draw a line here which shows negative correlation. And you can see there is almost no correlation here. So it is not a good point to draw a line over there. Again, here a positive correlation. Okay. So you can see that there is a positive correlation here. And wherever is a negative correlation, you can see, definitely imagine a line in a negative direction or negative slope. And in randomness, you can understand we cannot draw anything, because the line definitely doesn't does any justice. Sorry. It is clear how does correlation graphs look like? And you can definitely try. You can try switching it up and see what results you get.
Can you give a few examples of how this is used in data science?
Okay, so many times when you will be running a regression, we need to understand if there is not too much correlation. So theta1 x1, theta2 x2 plus theta3 x3. Okay, so we don't watch much correlation between them. This is called a multicollinearity issue. Okay, so if x1 is already available, so it is like number of calories burnt. Okay, and this is like number of steps taken. So usually we understand there is a direct positive correlation. So you can just get the results maybe with one variable itself. Or a Pearson correlation coefficient, usually we are looking something closer to going to +1. Now, depending on different scenarios, in multicollinearity issue, we usually select something like 0.7 absolute value. And if something is greater than 0.7, we understand the correlation is really very high. And we can maybe choose to ignore one of the features. But here, what do we look for those features which are important? Let's say for feature importance, it is equally important. We also try to find, let's say x1, let's say there is a theta x2. So we also try to understand which is highly correlated with y. Usually that feature is definitely more important. So let's say with your salary performance increase, let's say, what features do you think are more important? So again, I don't have a salary data, unfortunately, right now with me, but you could see a overall generalization over there. If you were to try to compare all the features with Y, you will see that there are some features which stand out. Okay, what it means is there are some features which have very high correlation with your salary increase or decrease or being at the same level. And there are some features which are not that useful. There's almost a randomness over there, that it might be leading to your increase, it might not be leading to your salary increase.
Okay. Okay. So,
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
So you said this also is for feature comparison. So basically what you're saying is, I think I was reading some dimensionality reduction. You can choose not to, because something is representing by something else, something
exactly.
Like that.
So usually if something is highly correlated with Y outcome, usually that feature has to be retained. Okay, that feature will be there. And if something is almost not correlated with the outcome at all, again, it only works for linear. So if you have some kind of non-linear relationship, this trick might not work. But till linear regression or simple logistic regression, you can definitely think in these purposes. Okay, and if two features are highly correlated with each feature or each other, you can definitely see to drop to one of them.
Yeah. Okay. Good point.
Okay. Now the strength goes from basically -1 to 1, +1. So the maximum strength, again, absolute value will go from 0 to 1 only. Okay, I hope you understand that. And the direction shows basically the kind of direction of the relationship. So the positive will show there is a positive growth. So when X increases, Y also increases. When X decreases, Y decreases as well. But when it is negative, it is just a reverse idea. Okay. When X is increasing, Y is decreasing. And when Y is increasing, X is decreasing. Okay. So basically negative relationship produce a downward slope. Positive relationship produce a upward slope. Okay. Positive slope. It's again slope idea anyways. And this is how usually your data will look like. If you get perfect one, all of the points will go on a straight line. Okay, so there is no randomness over there. Everything is perfectly positive correlated. Very rare to find in nature. Okay, very rare. You can still find very strong positive correlation like 0.8, 0.75, something like this. where there is some randomness, but there is a definitely upward trend. Then you can find like 0.5, 0.6, which is still a moderate, but again, you will see the spread of the data is increasing. So you can think like the variance is increasing in the data. 0 is no correlation, almost when it flats out or it is spread all across the graph. There is no correlation. Again, -1 is a perfect negative correlation. All the points are one straight line. And then you have a high negative correlation, okay? Less than negative 0.8. And less than negative 0.6, negative 0.5 is a moderate negative correlation. Okay.
Sir, I have one question. I mean, it is irrespective of the topic what you are saying. So these many of us sampling methods and correlation, no things you are teaching. So I'm just interested to know how we will be exactly knowing when to apply and on what data set to apply in real time. I'm now thinking how this will I'll get grasp of these things.
Okay, so again, I understand the path is not that clear, and while in the stats it is not gonna be clear completely anyways. Once you will go to machine learning, there will be complete regular back references for the statistics topics. Okay, that regularly I will be referring. Look, this is where we are sampling. Look, we are calculating multicollinearity. So multicollinearity is what? You remove or you find high correlation between variables. So stats will be referenced as like a reference point or reference book for yourself. Okay, that there would be so many points or so many things you will do in machine learning that has their basics right now or right where your stats is. Like you will have to remove outliers. Okay, so you will have to use an IQR approach. There are two approaches. One is Z-score approach. One is IQR approach. Now, what is IQR really?
Yeah, so from 25 percentile to 75 percentile.
Like what is outlier really?
So anything which is not common, generally 5% of the data.
The range, right? So yeah. Why I cannot go to the normal range or the normal mean function? Because it is not, it basically gets extended with the outlier value, right? But the median doesn't get extended or median doesn't changes. The IQR also doesn't changes with the outlier value. Now we use this one. So maybe it will be very clear when you will be doing, let's say, robust scaling. At some point, you will have to do a robust scaling, something called robust scaling. So sometimes min-max scaling doesn't work. Okay, so min-max scaling is the range. Now the problem is if you're an outliers, you have a massive range. Okay, all of a sudden the range expands. So you do a robust scaling where you take a IQR. You do not take the whole range, you just take a IQR, and whichever falls in IQR, accordingly you scale the data. So many times, unless you do not go through the machine learning part, you will not be able to appreciate the stats part. Okay, and till I do not teach you machine learning, you will not be able to connect forward as well, right? So again, remember, you can only connect the dots looking when going like once you have went somewhere, you can only connect the dots like looking backwards. Okay, it is very hard to connect like dots going forward because you do not know what is going to come. Right. Yes. So that is the trick, that once you go to machine learning, then you will like, oh, this is where it comes. Okay, so it will come in handy, but yeah, I do want you to learn these things properly, because in machine learning, neural networks, and a lot of different topics, these things will drop by unexpectedly. Even in while we do noise removal in images, mean approach and median approaches are utilized.
Got it, sir. So basically, as we progress further, we'll be able to relate the things which we have studied previously. Exactly. So we will be grasping things like that.
Yeah, lot of people do study directly from internet and stuff, and they are lacking stats basic. So they yesterday I was taking an interview of the one person. Okay, he was from IIT Guwahati, but he took like this online approach. He just studied everything, just did the implementation. His GitHub shows good code. Okay, so I was very interested in his profile. So I went to we had like a half an hour call. But then he started stuttering about like basic stuff he could not explain, like logistic regression, SVM, which are like pretty basic when you go to machine learning. And I was really confused that what is happening. Did he lie everything or like what is? So I asked him like what has happened. He was like, sir, I did not focus too much on linear algebra and stats while in college. This still is in fourth year. And that is why I'm facing some problems understanding how it works. I was like, are you serious? Why did you not study those things properly? So now he's like revising everything and everything. So I told him like take some time, maybe come after 6 months, but revise your maths, because he could not explain. He knew the code, but he could not explain how it worked. I was like, seriously, how it can be possible? So yeah, this happens when you do not read the maths and the statistics part. So yeah, this happens that people don't really understand what is going on. They just know that this code will give this output, but how did you achieve that? No idea. They have zero idea how did that. So I don't want you guys to be in the similar scenario.
Got it, sir. Got it.
Okay. Hey guys, so it is almost 10, so I have to take my team meeting here.